SubmitHub. You might love it, you might hate it, you might love it and hate it. All that is totally fair. It is a super interesting platform, and I think it's one of the most useful platforms out there on the internet today for marketing your music. I've used SubmitHub. I was actually just trying to figure this out on the screen behind me dozens of times, and some of those have done really well, and some of those have done not so well. I've also talked to Jason, who's the founder at SubmitHub, multiple times, and I've talked to Dylan on his team, trying to learn how to run successful campaigns for my clients and sometimes for my own music too. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you everything that I have learned. Well, not everything. The things that I think are helpful for you in running a good SubmitHub campaign. So, I'll get your music covered and placed in playlists and yeah, just help you in getting your music out there. So with that said, let's get into it. All right, so here I am in my SubmitHub portal, and you can see these are all the submissions that I've sent. I've sent quite a lot of songs over the years. And you can also see that some of them have done better than others. So here's one where 24 responses, only one approved. Here's one where 17 responses, 6 approved. So depends what you're going for, but basically this platform can vary a lot song to song. So I figured I would walk you through the process of actually submitting a song and talk through what I think are some of the most important things for getting the actual approvals. So here we are in the submitting a song screen. That's what it's technically called. Jason, you can correct me. So I pasted in the track here. I did YouTube because SubmitHub likes that versus Spotify. Like sometimes they can only show the preview, I think. So is this song released? Yes, it's released. It was released here. And these, yes, are all that song. And I'm also going to add the Spotify link and hit next. And already created the artist profile. My friend is from the United States. And song title is Eighth and Pine. Yes, it has lyrics. Yes, they are in English. It's radio friendly. I'm not gonna, I haven't seen this before, which makes sense because it's new, but paste or type your lyrics below. Not doing that. This might be more important if you're looking for blog coverage. I'm gonna go primarily for playlisting for this one. Okay, and I've got a little blurb that I will paste in here. So second single from Old Friends, New Friends about how to cope with dying relationships. It's chill indie folk in the vein of Novo Amor or Hollow Coves. So I'm just trying to give them some context for where to place the song, how it fits. And with that, I will finish the upload. And I will submit to Curators. And I'm not going to do TikTok creators or Instagram influencers. I will put a link to a video where I actually tried a TikTok influencer campaign. Wasn't great. It wasn't on SubmitHub, but yeah, it wasn't great. I'm going to do Curators, and I'm going to focus on Spotify playlisters. And I'm going to choose premium just as a heads up. Standard, you almost never get no guarantee of response or feedback. And truth be told, you really don't get many responses when you submit standard. So it feels like mostly waste of time, but it's free. So, all right, premium. And this is cool. So they pull up Spotify's like similar artists. I'm actually, because these are all pretty small artists, like you can see how many followers they have, and so I don't think many curators will be familiar with them. I am going to search for Novo Amor, add him. Oh, the Paper Kites, that's actually a good one. And then Hollow Coves. So I will do that, and then I'll click Save. So this will help SubmitHub target curators who are likely to share artists like this. And then genres, they have a bunch of genres here. It's always honestly kind of hard for me to sort through. Just do the best that you can. And I would say this is one thing you can really mix and match. So if you run a search and you're not seeing curators that you think line up with your genres that you've selected, go back and try some different genres and just play around with it. But I'm going to start with folk. So I'm going to say indie folk. I'm going to say folk, and then I think it's singer-songwriter. Try that to start. And I've got it or and or. If you do and indie folk and singer-songwriter, you're only going to see curators who do all three of those genres. I am trying to keep it broad, so I'm fine with the or. And then moods, this is chill. Maybe it's a little moody too. I'll go with those two. And with that said, I will click next. So here's a key thing. Specific and honest feedback makes them more likely to spend time listening to the song. The more time they spend listening to the song, I think the more likely they are to approve it. So always go with specific and honest, and then just take the feedback with a grain of salt. So I am gonna let them upload the song. I don't think this will be super applicable to me because I'm gonna focus on Spotify playlists versus YouTube, but I like to keep my options open. So hit next, and here we go. Okay, so now you get to the page where you actually see all the curators that they think might be a good match for your song. I have a couple of tips here to improve your placement rate. The first is maybe the most obvious, but so many people don't do it. SubmitHub does such a great job of showing you all the data about a curator. I think the most important thing you can do is just listen to the playlist that they have and see if your music fits. So we click here, and I'm just going to listen to a couple of these songs. Okay, so this playlist definitely is a fit. It's not hugely popular. It's only 540 followers and 202 tracks. So you can see you're only going to get like 5 listeners per month from this. But I definitely think that it would fit on this. And then we have, ooh, so that's a bigger, soft indie folk is a bigger one. Let's listen to that. I think a lot of these playlists, having listened to them, are good fits for this song. So I am going to submit to these guys. Here's the second thing I would say. Always read the description. They say read this before you submit. My song, make sure your song meets the criteria. Unreleased tracks, other stuff will be declined. So that's important to know. The other thing I would say is I always like to, in my pitch, mention the playlist that I think it would be a specific fit for. So here's my pitch. Um, Second single, blah, blah, blah. And then thought this one would be a good fit on Soft Indie Folk or Indie Folk 2023. Thanks so much for listening. So you don't have to really write too much. I just want to show that I've listened to their playlists. I know what their specific playlists are, and I think that my song would be a good fit for them. So with that, I'm going to save and submit. And I won't show you this in this video, but I'm basically going to go through and do that for all the curators that they recommend. I would go through this entire list that they show me. You might start getting, as you go toward the bottom, into curators that don't feel like as good a fit. And if that's the case, I would go back and try some different genre combinations. Maybe I would try acoustic folk or something else in the indie genre, but that would give you a few different variations of curators to try. I'm also going to make sure that I have the type of curator selected that I'm focused on. So in this case, I'm going for Spotify streams. So I'm going to have Spotify playlisters selected. Um, I'm going to have shares to Spotify selected. And I like the recommended picks generally, so I have that selected as well. Approval rate. So this is an interesting one that you can mess around with, and I would actually recommend that you do. When I talked to Dylan from SubmitHub, he recommended running multiple campaigns. His philosophy was you run one campaign where you go from 0 to, say, like 20%. And these will be the curators that are very picky, but tend to have really well curated lists because they're pickier. And so you treat these as like the high risk stocks or the home run swings, and you run a campaign to maybe 10 of these curators. Maybe you only get like 1 or 2 placements, but hopefully those are really good placements. And then he recommended doing another campaign from like 20 to, I don't know, like 60%. And these are curators that you have a pretty good chance of getting approved by because they approve a high percentage of songs. But often those approvals aren't as meaningful. It's like when my mom gives me compliments, I take those with a grain of salt because she always gives me compliments. The the curators that are 0 to 10 or 0 to 20%, those tend to mean more because those approvals are more rare. You can also obviously use the genre match, the quality, and the engagement filters. I don't worry about that too much. I just look at the playlists themselves. That's the main thing I evaluate when I'm submitting to a curator is, do I think this playlist A looks legit and B is a good fit for my music? All right, so I have just submitted the song. I submitted it to 21 curators. You can see right here. And I used 44 credits. So if credits are about $1, that's about $44, which is really not bad for playlisting. That is a low entry level spend. A few notes here. One of the common questions on using SubmitHub is how many curators should I submit to? I had actually always thought that the more curators, the better. In talking to Jason, the founder at SubmitHub, his philosophy is actually that you should do like a test campaign where you pick a small number of curators, say maybe 10, and you run your campaign and you see what kind of results you get. And then based on the results you get, if you get good results, then maybe you run a wider, bigger, more expensive campaign. And if you don't get very good results, maybe you say, okay, this song isn't working. We'll move on to the next one. I actually really like that approach because I like that Jason is not just telling you to spend more money. But I would say that the more money you spend, the more responses you'll get. The average approval rate is about 22%. So if you do the math, and I'm not great at math, but you do 100 submissions, you can expect about 22 approvals. If you do 50 submissions, 11, 25 submissions, maybe 5 or 6 approvals. So basically, just the more you spend, the more approvals and results you can expect. But also, I think Jason's approach makes sense. So there is no hard and set rule. I would say at least do 10 curators. If you do less than 10 curators, you're just not giving yourself a big enough sample size. But yeah, ultimately it is up to you. And the very last thing I want to note is that I actually have like a checklist on how to use SubmitHub that walks through some of these things I've talked about step by step, so that if you're running your own campaign, you can go through and basically follow along and make sure that you're doing things to get as high an approval rate as possible. So if you want to download that, I will put the link in the description below. And also let me know if you would like to see the results of this campaign later on. The placement should come in over the next couple days, but then we won't see how effective the playlists are for about another month. So if you would like to see the results from this campaign, let me know in the comments below. So that's my advice with SubmitHub. Hopefully this stuff was helpful for you. I think this is a great platform for getting your music out there if you can bear the super lame feedback from curators who are trying their best. If you want to see how I think SubmitHub stacks up against other music promotion services, you can watch the video I have reviewing 16 different playlist services. I also have a video where I break down Playlist Push versus SubmitHub. I think these are two solid platforms in their own right, and they can be used for different things. So hopefully those videos are helpful, and most of all, wishing you good luck as you make and market your music.